Waiting for Phil. Where are you, Phil?
Oh, amazing, amazing, amazing. Thank you, man.
Hello, my brother.
Yo, I've been having some trouble just connecting on my side, but thank you for coming through for me.
Let's see how it goes. Let's see how the connection goes. How are
Okay,
you?
so this was how it was gonna go, okay? Can you hear the music in the backtrack? In the backs?
Not, not really. It's like cutting off.
Now?
Yeah, it's like we are the world, right?
Yeah, man, yeah, man. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome today here on the PhilsDrive, my own edition of doing things. So, welcome, Stephen, man.
Thank you, Thank you, my brother. Live,
It's
live,
great to
live,
speak to
live
you.
from the Netherlands. What's up? What's up in Joburg?
Oh no. And I wrote there like French born. My mistake, eh?
No, no. I live in the Netherlands, but I'm French. You got it correct.
Oh, okay, then I was 100% correct.
You
That's
were
great, man.
100% correct.
Thanks, man. Thanks,
All the way
thanks.
through, all the way through Joburg, South Africa. What's up?
Yeah, man. So yeah, I'm just nervous. Hey, I'm nervous, man. Yo, like it's the first time doing this, but it's a topic that we all need to talk about, I guess.
You're a pro. You're a pro. I trust you, my brother.
Thank you, man. So yeah, like a lot of people don't know what the show is all about, and the PhilsDrive is about uncovering the life stories beyond the successes and challenges to bring in the importance of people worldwide. So today we're talking about a situation which really is sad when we look at it, and we want to get out of it as Africans. Yeah. So that's why I invited you today to join us.
I
Can I have
mean,
some water?
yeah. I drink a lot because I talk a lot.
Oh, so when you drink a lot, you talk a lot.
Yeah. I need to
Okay.
work. I need to work on that. Yeah. I mean, I'm happy to be. I'm happy to be there. I'm happy to having that conversation with you. To have that conversation with you. Obviously, there's so much to untangle, and it's such a particular time, and I see so many people that it's really it hit home. It hit so many people in a very personal way, especially I mean us Black people, us African people. It hit us because it's just like there we go again.
Okay. But firstly, like before we even go into the topic, I just want people to know who is Stephen, where do you come from, and then we can take it all the way to why we actually came here today.
Okay, introduce me.
No, I want you
You
to
the
introduce
host. You are the host.
I want you to tell the people, hey, I'm
Okay,
Stephen,
so
and so on and
I'm
so on.
I'm Steven, aka Great Teacher Steve.
Okay.
I have right now I'm a researcher. I
Hmm.
particularly work in the field of innovation, social
Wow.
innovation. Some of the framework that I'm working on right now is really like human innovation. How do we reinvent
Okay.
and reimagine our human interaction? I have a background that goes from being an entrepreneur uh,
Yeah.
to uh, to founding three companies, travel a
Hmm.
lot, live in 9 countries. Now I'm settled in The Hague,
Yay.
in the Netherlands. Uh, and yeah, and I really enjoy having this conversation, whether it's with students or young professionals like you. And I'm always supportive of. I'm supportive of your initiatives out there
Mhm.
in lovely South Africa. We actually met when I was visiting one of the
Yeah.
projects that you working on, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Wow, okay. In the field of innovation, you're talking about social, what's this? So social innovation. Can you explain maybe that a bit more? Because I believe that all these things they connect us at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, social innovation is quite simple, right? There are many
Okay.
definitions, no real definition of no official definition, but basically it's how do you solve a social problem, a problem of the
Mm,
society, using method of let's call it like innovation method, so method like
okay.
what we call design thinking, that is kind of like, oh, okay, how do you design or create a solution really taking into account the user or the experience, right, of the user,
Okay.
and center on the human experience. So this is what social innovation is, and it goes from creating a company, that in that case that would be a
Mm,
social business or a social enterprise
yeah.
that is not just focusing on the profit and the benefit, but it's also focusing on other social
Mm,
aspects like it could be inclusion, it could be diversity, it could be any
yeah.
type of social aspect that you, it could be environment, it could be so many things. And then,
Wow.
yeah, so that's what social, and it could be a foundation, it could be an organization, it could be a
Okay.
movement in some case, it could be so many things, but it's about, yeah, that this is what social innovation is.
Yeah, it's quite deep. So have you been affected, like, because I believe that you need to always be on your feet, always thinking about what problem to solve. Has this become one of the biggest problems for you at this time? Black Lives Matters.
I mean, when you are being black, it's always a problem, right? So,
Seriously.
yeah, no matter, I mean, it's a different, I always say it's a different experience of life, right? It's a
Okay.
different, it's like traveling in the, it's like you see everyone going on a bike and you're traveling with
Yeah.
one roller or one roller and that's it, right? So it's a different life experience. So you always, I mean, we don't need Black Lives Matter
Yeah.
to experience that, right? So it's a different. So it's a part of our lives. It's a part of our experience. So I wouldn't say it has become one of the most important issue because I've been affected. What I do see is how it's impacting, especially my students of color,
Yeah.
who are very impacted. I do see that, and I do how it's affecting them, like emotionally and
Wow, man.
psychologically at different level. So from that perspective, there's a need for extra attention or extra dialogue, conversation, because this is really one that hits home and tough to digest all around the world.
Wow. This is deep. Even when you talk about the students, like I'm like, wow, how would the students cope during this time? I believe some of them are writing exams, eh?
Yeah, some are, many are writing exams, finishing exams. It's interesting because a lot of like stories are coming up. I saw
Okay.
some students like kind of sharing their own stories,
Mm,
mm, because they said, yeah, okay, this is happening, but this is also happening to us, and we are
okay.
experiencing that. So we don't need. It's not just now. It's been there for a while. So this is challenging for that.
Mm.
It's really hitting a lot of people hard.
It is, man. And which of the things do you feel has been normalized into your kind of space of work, so that we must just be fine with it and so forth? Since you're talking about your students and so forth.
You have students that will share experience about being discriminated by other students. You have students sharing experiences about having something happening with teachers or educators.
Okay.
It's happening everywhere. Or students that move from Africa to here and from countries in Africa and having students making fun of them, etc., etc. So
Mm.
there's a lot of different dynamics of things that can happen.
Wow. And in your own personal experience, growing up in France and also being a black man, how is it like from now? If you can just look back from now till the time that you were born? How is it living as a black man in France?
Um, if you look at the
Okay.
Western world, uh, I would say you have police brutality and racism. I would say number
Yeah.
one would probably be the US, and number two would be France, right? In terms of people that were killed by the police, the type of abuse that you can go through
Yeah.
as a black man or as a black woman, the type of social discrimination, and also more importantly the colonial history that there is between France and the former colonies, which is very specific. That is very different from other colonies because France is still very present in these countries,
Wow.
right? So yeah, it's a specific dynamic, and this is also one of the reasons why I left, right? Because if you are good at what you do and you want to be able to reach other level, and let's say you're not an athlete or a comedian,
Okay.
then you don't fit the script. So if you really want to
Wow.
find opportunities and if you really want to kind of reach other level, you have to leave. I'm not saying that other places in I'm not saying that there's no racism in the Netherlands or whatever, but um, it's different, at least professionally,
Okay.
because of the way that I do things. I can actually get to certain things that I would not be able to get to if I was in France.
Mm, mm, mm. And
Or
talking about, you know,
it would take me so long.
seriously. Mm, wow,
Yeah.
man. Damn. And what does like talk, you know, when we look at our videos about what has been happening and trying to backtrack where this thing actually started and so forth, what do you think this movement means to you, Stephen? What benefit
Um,
does it take in your life?
I mean, it's been an interesting time, right? So if you zoom out, um, at some point of this point of history, during a certain time, you had the whole world had to slow down. And somehow, no matter where you are in South Africa, I'm in the Netherlands. Some people could be in Congo. Some people could be in China, in Japan. Everyone has to stop, right?
Yeah.
And at the same time, no matter what your social status, right? You could be rich, wealthy, poor, etc. Everyone had to stay home, right? There were
Okay.
no. So at that moment of history, in my analysis would be that in this exact moment, for the first time, maybe there was a sense of connection that happened
Okay.
around the world. We are all in this thing together, right? We all in this
Yeah.
thing
True.
together, right?
Mm.
And then there's this sense of connection, like of a global connection that happened against a common enemy for the first time,
Okay.
probably in
Mm.
humanity for the first time. Like, okay, there is a global enemy, and this is the COVID or whatever. And
Yeah.
then in this moment where everything slowed down, we're not rushing through our lives, uh, we have time to actually dissect, etc., etc. Then this happened, right? Right? I mean, it was like three cases in a row, but let's just say at that exact moment, right?
Mm.
I think the fact that we are all connected somehow and we had time to analyze, and it was just like
True.
the park. It was the magic of the moment, right? The same thing could have happened 4 months ago. I don't think it would have
Yeah.
been international reaction. It's just the moment. Sometimes the moment is actually more important. It's that moment of history. And it reminded me, I remember when I was a kid, with Madiba, right? With Nelson Mandela.
Okay.
There was a
Okay.
moment where internationally there was this consciousness that happened in that moment, and you could see the concert and the protest everywhere, etc. and this is this moment, and I actually don't think there's no going back. If you think that there will be like we're going to go back to the world before and not, no, because so many people, I mean, you see, I have my son is 13 years old, and
Okay.
his classmates are already posting Black Lives Matter, etc., etc. So the younger
Wow.
generation is actually seeing what's happening. So there's no
Oh,
going back. It's just that moment. Like, it's not going to go back, no matter what. And each case, wherever it's going to happen in the world, is going to be amplified and amplified. And it's actually a very sensitive moment because not only from the racism, but what has happened is
mhm.
that every social injustice has been amplified.
Yeah.
And we have to be careful to not fall in a situation where the have a global of the have versus the have nots would emerge. Um,
Mm,
we're not, if you look back at history, we're not that,
mhm.
you know, put, we had the COVID and then put a economical crisis and the rise of certain movements, and this could actually lead to some type of conflict, I believe. So
Mm. And most people said when I was just chatting to them this week, like they like this thing is actually bigger than your COVID-19. What are your thoughts about that? Because they like since each and every single thing has eased down, we can focus. You can really see the true things that are happening around us.
I mean, COVID-19 was kind of like the spark.
Okay.
It created the space. It created the frame. Without
Mm,
COVID-19, as we say, like, okay, they killed George Ford, but I mean, it's happening pretty much every month. Why is it that this moment was? Why is it?
Ish.
And there's a lot of things that need to happen at a certain moment for this to spark. So it's happening in the US, it's happening in France, it's happening, but at this exact moment, that was when the world was watching.
What can be implemented in the field of innovation as you are in that can change this thing from being repeated again?
It's not just about this thing, right? So you
Hmm.
cannot just look at it, and that's been well, actually, we need to reinvent everything. I mean, I'm repeating it.
Yeah.
That's what I always say, but we need to rethink and reimagine and reinvent everything. So we need a systemic change, totally, because you can't look at something like racism and policing and police brutality and discrimination and all type of discriminations just from one perspective, right? So let's even say you look at it and you want to reduce police brutality, but you can't do it if you don't have more social justice, right? And you can't have more social justice if you don't have a different paradigm of economy, right? So if you
Mm.
are in a world and an economy that just focus on the material, on the profit, on the financial profit, on with so much discrepancy between the have and the have not, it's
Yeah.
not doable. So everything has to be rethought, and we need to create. And this is the biggest challenge. How
Mm.
do we create spaces where people are allowed to actually rethink everything together? Like
Yeah.
economists, politics, economy, politics, business, spirituality, everything, everything, social work, health. What does it mean?
Yeah.
Environment, everything, and it's
True.
all linked. And the our interaction, our social interact, everything is linked. So you cannot just take one thing and no, we have to rethink the whole system. This neoliberal system has failed tremendously. So how do we create a new system? It doesn't mean that we go to communism, but
Yeah.
how do we reinvent that? How do we reinvent democracy? No matter
Ish.
where, like, and this is actually the heart of the matter. Like, how do we reinvent democracy or politics? Right? Because also this democracy that it's not working, right? When you have lobbies that are defending things or pushing for laws that goes against humanity, against our environment, against
Wow.
our well-being. It's the system is becoming has become bigger than us as human beings. So the key
Yeah.
is like we need to reinvent that, and we need to start with the fundamentals. And what are the fundamentals? The fundamentals is caring, love, compassion. Some
Okay.
countries are already exploring that.
And then, and which countries would you say are exploring such?
I mean, there are a lot of countries. If you go, for example, Bhutan, that has an index like where they're measuring not only the GDP, but they're measuring the happiness level, right? And you
Wow.
got ecological schools there and everything. I was recently in Denmark. Denmark
Hmm.
has one of the. It's the country in the world where you pay the most taxes, right, in the world, but you have a level of this is the country in the world at the same time where you have the less difference between the wealthy and the less
Hmm.
wealthy, right? So their
Wow.
social model. So people there are actually happy to pay more taxes because for them it's normal that if you find yourself in a situation of a crisis or problem, it's normal that the society take care of you, right? So
Hmm.
you can, and then you got interesting laboratories and
Wow.
initiatives around the world. You also got interesting research in terms of rethinking the economy, tax evasion. Uh, we know we got all the tools, but it's all separated. So
Hmm. Hmm.
it's possible. There are many things going on. And then you got in Latin America, you also got some interesting democratic laboratory where they try um, to investigate. They try new things and yeah, it's there are all around the world. But I think what COVID has done and what is happening right now, I think it's like it's going to speed up things.
Hmm. And like you said, you travel a lot and so forth. How does because okay, let me just put this straight, okay? So you get as myself thinking about friends, thinking about what's this American? I'm like, wow, what these are countries of opportunities, happiness, and so forth. But how do you really feel when you travel at other countries, and how do you get welcomed and
I'm
so forth?
always like, even though I mentioned the concept of happiness before, I'm actually very uncomfortable with the concept of happiness.
Okay.
I would talk more about fulfillment because actually, when you look at happiness and how that concept of happy and looking for happiness when it really appears in philosophy and it's really the enlightenment, right? So we have the
Hmm.
right to go to be happy. Therefore, our happiness allows us to go around the world and exploit and kill so this is when actually the concept of happiness really you start seeing like philosopher and Kant and all these philosophers writing about happiness, etc. So that concept of happiness, I'm always like, okay, what does happiness mean? But
Hmm.
fulfillment, contribution, this is more like, okay, how do you contribute? Because eventually,
Yeah.
we are and neuroscience is demonstrating that we are made to contribute to greater causes, right? Nothing can fulfill you more than contributing to something that is greater than you, and that's what science of motivation has shown, right? So I believe more in that than the Western definition of happiness. What is it? A car, having two cars, a house, the dog, and so, but if we want to talk about happiness from the perspective of the spirituality and the fulfillment and
Yeah.
love and contributing, then yes, we can talk. But a lot of time when you hear about happiness, everyone has a different definition, and a lot of time in the Western world, um, it's a specific definition that is not necessarily a fundamental definition of.
Mhm.
what happiness is really. That you're
True.
from South Africa, and the Ubuntu and the community, and this
Mm.
is, it's not happiness. It's not just about you.
Yeah,
You
that's
know.
true. That's true. And like you mentioned that you have a son, hey?
Yeah.
And what kind of preparations do you tell a kid that is so innocent at his age and he sees all of these things happening? How do we prepare our young um upcoming boys and girls to face this, what we are facing? Because obviously if you look back, it's been repeating itself. How do you prepare the young ones as a father from a father's
It's repeating, but it's not repeating. Um, I see an improvement upon each generation. I do see the younger generation, or if I look at the generation of my students,
okay?
being more conscious about many things compared to my generation, right? I do see the generation of these kids of 12, 13 already be conscious about environment, already being conscious about racism. So I think every generation right now is, to me, in my opinion, even though a lot of people will criticize them, but I see
Yeah.
them taking it to a whole new level. And even the generation of babies that are going to be born now are also going to take it to another level. Just imagine a generation that experienced COVID because
Yeah.
of the way human beings have been behaving, because there's also a connection between what happened
Yeah. True.
in China and how it started, and the model of economy and living that we have and stuff. And then that same generation that's seeing uh, police brutality on a global scale for the first time. It's not just in the US now. It's like, okay, we all connected to that. Imagine the type of transformative experience that there is. So I think my main concern is, how do you build self-esteem? How do you?
Oh,
That's like the greatest question
yeah.
that I have. Even though right now I have a boy, and because we live in the society that we live in, the challenge of self-esteem for boys is less than for girls and women,
Mm.
which are bombarded by images and the media and the society telling them all the time that you're not enough. So I would say the challenge and is, how do you build self-esteem and resilience in the young generation,
Mm.
and
And
self-love.
do you also mm. So you know, like I don't want to assume things when I think about this topic, but I saw on videos on YouTube where you'll find that the most hurtful things about Black Americans teaching their kids on how to respond to the police, it's not something that I ever saw in my life here in South Africa. Have you ever went through that?
Mm, um, I've been through experiences with the police. I've been through experiences with the police in the US and in Canada, and so it's the most shocking things.
Yeah, it
Um,
is.
I remember a true story. This was in 2000, and my best friend at the time, childhood friend, is visiting me. At the time, I'm living in San Francisco, and my
Okay.
best friend is visiting me, and we are invited to a party, right? So it's like a fancy party and stuff, and we like in, we 20 something, and we go to the party. So we have the suits and we are dressed super well, etc. So we go to the party, have fun, and then we head back home, right? And we take the tram, we get out the metro, we walk back home. And my friend, who's like, that was his first time in the US, and he asked me at some point, "Hey, what's up?" Because a few months before, like, guys were killed by the police, and he said, "Hey, what's up with the
Mm.
police brutality in San Francisco?" And I'm like, "No, San Francisco, it's the Bay Area. It's chill." And I don't know, call it karma. call it whatever. As I finish that sentence, we hear boop, boop, and before we know, we got about 10 cops around us and 4 cars and
Yes.
many cars surrounding us. And
Yo.
it's the first time. So we don't know what happened. We dress well. We are like wearing suits, both of us French. And they ask us, okay, what are you doing, guys, and stuff. And I'm answering because my friend's not speaking good English. Yeah, we're coming back from the club, and yeah, we're just heading back home. They ask us where we live. I say where we live, and my friend, I don't know what he didn't know. Talking about your point, he didn't know, and he reached out for his passport to show it to the cops.
Oh no.
Yeah,
Oh.
so he's reaching out for his passport, and the cops just pulled out their guns. Like, la, 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 don't move, la, la, la. It's just, don't shoot, I'm French, don't shoot, I'm French. And till this day, I don't know how I don't know. It was just not our day. So they put out, in the end, no one shot, right? Or like no one shot. They look at the passport, they see that. And what happened was there was a robbery at the gas station close to the house, or not that much that. And the description was 2 black people, but we were wearing fucking suits. Like, we didn't fit any of this. And so, long story short, the cops leave, and obviously they never apologize, never say nothing. They say, okay, bye, stay. And my friend and I swear to you, brother, we didn't talk till the next day. So we walked back home in silence because we were so fucking shocked.
Of the trauma, baby.
Oh yeah, yeah. If you have people, when you have police like with guns on, like targeting you, it's scary. So we didn't say a word. We went to bed and not talk. And I don't even think we ever talk about it again. We never talk about it.
Yo, it still hurts.
Yeah, and to this day, man. I mean, at that time, that's the time when you had people getting shot. One guy, because he was holding a sandwich, it was around, or the people in New York City being shot at the park. Like, you had a lot of cases like that. And at that time, that was right there. And to this day, I don't know how we got. I don't know. It was just not our day, because for less than that, you could be killed. Much less than that. But he just didn't know. I didn't tell him, hey. So after that, everyone that would have said, if ever do reach for anything, just keep your hands on. But I mean, I got a few stories like that. I got a story, and if you see me and you see my CV, and that you cannot, yeah. But yeah, police and in France as well, and I mean, yeah. Sometimes they beat you up. Sometimes they insult you. Sometimes this is the reality. And it has nothing to do with you being. I never engaged in criminal activities. So
just for the fun of it, it's normal to
yeah. Wrong place, wrong time. It's the reality.
So does it force people to be locked up in their houses in order for them to be safe?
No, it doesn't force that, but it's just you live with that reality. As I said, it's like traveling the world and experiencing like a different experience of life. You know, it's just like, I don't know, there is a terrorist attack. You live in Europe, let's say, there's a terrorist attack in Europe. And I guarantee you that every black person and every Arabic person is like, please God, don't make it be a Arabic, or don't make it be a black person. That's the first thing that we think about. It's just a different experience of life. It's just, you know.
Yo. Wow, man, this is like talking about what people actually go through. Do you really think social media is a powerful tool during this time so that we can try and bring that change?
it's been, I mean, look at what happened. Like, I mean, I was at the protests here in The Hague, and one of the beautiful
Okay.
things that you see is also the youth, right? You see these
Mm.
high school students, and you see these kids, even like people coming with their kids. Um,
Wow.
yeah, it's like it's changing. It's changing. It's a crucial. Like I really think it can go so many ways, but it's there's something, and social media has been, without social media there's no, or it would take longer, but social media has
Wow.
been crucial because now you cannot
Wow.
hide. I mean, look, we see the images.
Mm. Wow. This is really shocking, man, because we're just trying to find a way around this on how to keep people happy and out of that traumatic experiences, eh?
Hmm.
Mm. This is really
But
shocking.
I mean, it's just, as we said, like that experience of the world and the way it is designed nowadays has been there for 500 years. There was a world before that. So not everything was about the material, and there were other type of connection. I'm not saying we have to go back. I'm just saying it's just a phase, and that phase is coming to an end. Like there's no option but to change paradigm one way or another. If we don't
Mm.
rethink, like we're not going, people are not just going to go back to their work and their career, and things go back to, no, no, you're already hearing about what's happening, like with the environment right now. Like, okay, like the level of CO2 has been the lowest
Yeah.
in since 1945 in the last few months, and now that economy has reopened, now you see like the production going 150% higher, and the pollution and environment, and people are not going to accept that. The younger generation is not going to accept that. The one coming behind, they're not going to accept that. So
Mm.
they will
True,
change one way or another. There
true, man.
will be. So we are in this moment. But
Mm.
our
Mm. Mm.
responsibility and my responsibility, what I see is, okay, how do we establish the fundamentals? How do you um, pass on these visions of these fundamentals that you need to be equipped with to actually be able to be conscious of all these things, conscious of the difference, conscious of this world, be able to connect the different dots that are happening. That is not just
Yeah.
one box. Look outside your box, because also the challenge with social media and this society is that everyone is in their own little box and don't look outside their box, right? So it's not just about me as a black man, and you as a
True.
black woman, and you as a gay person, and you as, no, it's how do we connect everything for
Mm.
what's best for our humanity,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
It's not just
True.
about my, right, our humanity, being conscious of the experiences that each group is experiencing, and the violence and the discrimination, etc. Being conscious
Mm.
and looking for, always putting the priority upon the more oppressed, right? And most of the time it will be um, women of colors, right? Uh, and if you deal with the more oppressed, and if you can find solution and social justice with the more oppressed, then it rises the level of everyone
Mm.
else. So you always have to prioritize the more oppressed, the poorer, the one that are forgotten, the, your refugees, your people experiencing wars, your, these are the people, you know these are the people that should be the priority, because if you raise the
Yeah.
level
True.
of them, you raise the level of everyone.
Mm. Wow, man. Wow, man. Thanks, Stephen. Thanks. Like, this
Thank
is this
you.
is this is really heartbreaking, man. It's heartbreaking, and for
No,
all the big
it's
brands.
gotta be. We have to have hope. We have to have hope. We have to have, uh, and this is happening. It's. I mean, there's no love without pain, right? And
Yeah, man.
if George Floyd doesn't pass away, this doesn't happen. So even his death has had the purpose, right? Everything happens for, there's a purpose in everything. So this change
Yeah,
does not happen without him, so, and it's always been like that. And we have to have hope. We cannot stop hoping and loving and acting, because when I talk about hope, when I talk about acceptance, when I talk about love, it's first and foremost an action. So how do we act upon it in our own world? It doesn't mean necessarily like uh, marching and stuff. But in our own world, I'm a teacher. I will use my tool to make change with the people that I can impact, and also try to improve myself. Uh, you do what you do, and you do in your podcast, and you do in your initiatives. How do you do that? And how do you try to raise yourself and to improve yourself as a human being? And how do we
true.
get out of our own bubble to try to connect and to understand and have compassion with the other, right? How can I have compassion with your experience and not
Hmm.
just try to put myself ahead of you, but how can I have compassion if you're telling me as a human being, this is what I'm experiencing,
Yeah,
and I don't experience that, but I have to have enough compassion to actually be like, oh, I never thought about it this way. Oh, this is okay. I need to change my way of perceiving things. I need to change my way of I was wrong, or this is not the right approach. And it's not about me telling you, oh, justifying you or giving you an example. No, it's about, okay, how can you put yourself in the shoes? And if we all do that, and this is also a start of it, and there's something,
yeah,
it may take us 100, 200 years, but it's on the way. But we have to have hope, because if we don't have hope, if we don't have love, and if we
Hmm.
don't have that, if we don't base our models on the spiritual aspect, and when I talk about spirituality, I talk about love, compassion, creativity,
Yeah, man.
collaboration. I don't necessarily talk about religions, even
Yeah,
though if you are religious, it's also there. But my point is that spirituality is attainable by anyone, right? And we all striving for it, right? But if we don't
true.
start to analyze everything, having economies of love and compassion, having an
Economies of
ecology
love.
and an ecology of love and compassion, having politics of love and compassion,
Hmm.
having businesses that are not just based into me, but okay, but truly, then these are the fundamentals. But all around the world, you see different initiatives and people actually acting in that direction, and maybe more than ever. Like, this is a great it's a great moment, I think. And as I say at the beginning, each generation is taking it to another level. But there has
Yeah,
to be
man.
fundamentals, vision, hope, and audacity.
Hmm. Wow, man. It's all about doing that little part in the world, eh?
I can't hear you. Can you repeat?
I'm saying that as this network. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. So I'm just saying it's all about um no, this network. Come on.
You making the change.
Sorry, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm saying that as just to wrap up what you just said, it's all about the change that you make in your little corner.
Yeah, you have to, exactly, it's about connecting, it's about compassion, it's about love, it's about the fundamentals. And I know it's not, we're not used to hear that, and we hear about numbers but the change can only come from that. It can only come from that space.
I lost my
I'm
network. Are you back? Ash, this network thing is really not on my side. Just about when we... Shucks, I lost my network. Are you back? Ash, this network thing is really not on my side. Just about when we about to close off.
Yeah, dude.
Can you hear me?
Is there questions from the?
Steven?
I see.
Oh, no.
I saw some
Oh,
comments.
you do? Okay, okay. So,
Oh, there's some nice comments.
okay, let me just check if there's any questions. Any questions, guys? Feel free to ask any questions. Okay. A lot of knowledge. Yeah, thank you, Khomutso. Okay, thank you. I am 7. What, Chris? Let me just check if there's any questions. Yeah.
Yep.
But if there is not, and then there's no loss here. Okay, yeah. But from my side, Stephen, I would just love to say to you, man, our life begins to end the day we become silent about things that really matters to us here
My brother.
and around the world. Eh? So thank you a lot, man, for coming tonight, joining me here.
Have a great. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, man. Thanks, man. And thank you to each and every single one who joined. Thank you, man. Thank you, man. We shall meet up, guys, and let's make a change wherever we can. It's been a difficult time for us all, but yeah, we can do this.
Thank you, my brother.
Together we can.
I'll see you.
Thank you.